Welcome to Lunch Thyme. I'm so glad that you are here with me today. We have a lot to talk about. And it's Monday, and I'm going to turn you just a little bit. You can see how much sunshine we have going, but I don't want that glare to get you. And since it's the month of February, that tells you that we've got some serious hearting to do. Heart, 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 showing the love to everybody. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Now, before we get too deep into lunchtime today, we're going to take a moment, take a deep breath, and we're going to let it go. Because at lunchtime, this is our time where we're just taking a moment to sit down, to have a nice beverage, perhaps even have some lunch, actually, rather than just talking and chit-chatting. But either way it goes, we want to be able to share and to learn and to have fun having a conversation right here at the lunch table, because that's what it's all about. So let's talk about some of the things that have been running through my mind. February, we have Valentine's Day, we have Black History Month, we have Heart Association Month as well. Hello. And certainly, being the home cooks as we are, we want to be able to provide for our family delicious meals. We want to be able to provide encouraging conversations and inspiring conversations. But now we have to think about the fact that we want to think also about showing the love to us, the home cook. And we're going to start inside. And then on the 14th, we'll work outside. And so let's talk about that. We were talking the other day about our hearts. And I shared with you that I've been having some issues with blood pressure and those kind of things have been going on. And that I had really been struggling with trying to find a good balance. We're always talking about improving your diet, improving the things that you eat, and keeping things very healthy. And so I try to do that all the time. But the reality of it is that sometimes, even in spite of all of that, we still have health issues. So we're going to start with the heart, because that's one of the it is one of the most important vessels in our body. And certainly we want our hearts to be healthy. And we want the things that we're preparing in our kitchen to be healthy for our family. So let's talk about some of the things that we can do to be able to keep our hearts at that level that we want. Now you're going to see me look down because I did make notes, and because there was just so much to talk about. So I'm going to start with the easy part. How do we know what a healthy meal is? And that's whether it's for us alone, whether it's we're sharing it at the lunch table, whether we're sharing it with our family and friends and community. What is a healthy meal? Well, certainly a healthy meal is one that is very colorful. You probably have some type of protein, whether it's plant-based or whether it's more animal related. You also have lots of green, lots of yellow, red. The more colorful it is, the more healthy typically it is. We are trying to incorporate at least 7 to 10 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. There are certainly some things that we're going to cut back on, and so that for me is the cut back. Yes, we're going to start to cut back on a few things. So that means that I'm going to have to be very selective. Hi, it means I'm going to have to be selective about the things that I'm putting on the plate. Not only selective about what I'm putting on the plate, but how much of what I'm putting on the plate, which is really important. And so let's talk about that. Beef. You hear a lot about beef, beef, beef. And beef in moderation is okay. Do we need beef? Well, as far as the word need, yes, it does provide a certain amount of iron to the body, but do we need it in large quantities? No. Do we need to have a huge piece of beef every time we eat? No. And do we want to be selective about the beef that we get? Yes. We want to pick as healthy a selection. We if you're picking a very lean selection of beef, then you're going to have to marinate it because it doesn't have much fat in it, and it's the animal fat that causes problems for our body. So we want to kind of lower the fat. So that means that then we have to develop marinades and those kind of things to be able to prepare the beef in such a way that it's tender and delicious. Now, also, we look more at either plant-based proteins, chicken, or poultry, or fish. And so those three categories are typically pretty healthy. But still, we have to come back to moderation, because do understand that all vegetarians are not skinny. And so that being said, we have to be careful about the amount of whatever it is that we're eating. I left the doctor this morning, and I went for a checkup, and things were good today. Today was a very good day. So you see, I'm smiling, I'm happy, everything's good. But the reality of it is that moderation is key. Whatever it is that we're doing, we must do it in moderation. No, we can't eat everything that we want, even if we're teeny tiny. We need to use a certain amount of moderation. And so, big word, moderation is key for us. Adding color to the meal makes it easy for us to be able to look at the plate and say, okay, I've got a good variety on this plate, because you can see the different categories, you can see all the colors, and typically the more colorful that plate is, your little ones are going to enjoy whatever it is that you're serving them. Now, fresh, 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 and raw vegetables are always number one at the top of the list. And the good thing about the fresh and raw vegetables is that pretty much most of them you can eat what you want and not really be concerned. So if you're concerned about, we're thinking moderation. So we can have a small bit of protein. And as the doctor said, when you're looking at your protein, you're not looking at a piece of protein that's the size of your hand, because those hand sizes can spread. Okay, we're looking at a lean piece of protein that's going to be right here, the size of the palm of the hand. And so that's your indicator. If your piece of beef or your piece of chicken is bigger than this, then you might want to cut it in half. And think moderation. I'll come back and eat that other half another day. And so that also helps that when you're preparing, whether it's a burger, whether it's a chicken sandwich, whether it's just chicken in general, or some type of croquette, you want to always shoot for something the size of the palm of your hand or smaller. So that gives you a good idea. If we can make substitutions, then that's a good thing. And so let me say to you, the two big ticket items that I had to make adjustments with was number one, salt. It has become the four-letter word, salt, because most of us find, and we talked about this Saturday in the kitchen, that salt is in so many things that we pick up and that we use. So to be able to put our foods together, we have to stop and take a minute and look at the salt content. I have gotten to the point where I won't even add salt until I'm almost at that point where I'm just tasting it to see if it needs a little something extra. Do you need a little tiny bit of salt? Yes, because you don't want your food to be so fresh that it almost doesn't have any taste, because then most people aren't going to eat it. So you need a lot of salt. So you need a pinch of salt in whatever it is that you're going to prepare. Now, our bodies need a certain amount of salt, but they do not need an excessive amount of salt. And from looking at, I went to two sources. I went to the Mayo Clinic diet, and the Mayo Clinic has tons and tons of information about salt. And in trying to cut salt and the other, it's not a four-letter word, it's a five-letter word, sugar. Oh, oh, oh. It breaks my heart. But we've got to cut back on that too. Salt and sugar. And so those are so critical. And so what the Mayo Clinic does is that, and I'm going to be putting these links down in the description box because I want you to be able to have access to it should this be something that you are concerned about as well. And let me stop right there. If you are a 20 something, if you're a 20 something, start now making the adjustments and eating moderately, because if you start early, then there are certain medical conditions that more than likely will not affect your body because you have taken good care of it and you've been cautious in the things that you eat and how much you eat. And so start early. Start, if you're starting your children early with a diet that is moderate in salt, an occasional piece of something with sugar, then you'll find that their health is much better. If we think back, and this has been a big one, I have been on the search for many, because it's Black History Month, I'm looking back at cooking years ago. We mean 50 and more years ago, of those recipes, looking at what cooks did, looking at how they cooked, looking at how they ran their homes. And so, in looking at that, you will find that moderation was there, not just because of the fact that they were thinking we need to eat moderately, but moderation was there because you only had a certain amount of food and you needed to feed X number of people. And so things were made a little bit smaller, you know, at plates were served a little bit smaller. And because of that, People ate smaller meals. They had breakfast, lunch, dinner, and dessert was something that was saved for maybe Sunday after Sunday dessert after church, or at the end of the day on Sunday. That was your treat, and then you didn't have any more dessert or sugars until the next Sunday. That was something special. It was not something you had every day. You didn't have high amounts of sugar every day. Now, so as you think about how those lifestyles were so special, those lives were special. Things were homemade. You didn't have a lot of meat on your plate because most people didn't have it. And so because of that, when you had your protein, it was in a very small quantity and you treasured every bite. And I think because of our fast lifestyle that we find ourselves just wolfing the food down and sometimes not even tasting it. It's just we know it's dinner, so we're eating, trying to get it done because we got other things to do that we need to move on to. And that's an issue because our bodies are revved up. We're not necessarily relaxed when we get ready to sit down and have a dinner. And so I feel that as the home cook, dinner time should be a very relaxed time. And so that's something to think about. Slowing down the pace at dinner time, making sure that you have a varied plate, lessening the salt, and certainly leaving the sugar for a special occasion. Now, I'm going to cut over for just a minute to see what everybody's chatting about because there's a lot of conversation going on over there. And for those of you who are new with us today, thank you, thank you, thank you for coming by and stopping by. I hope you'll leave a thumbs up and down in the description box. I also hope that if you're not a member of the family, that you will subscribe because we're going to be focused on the heart for the month of February. And we're always preparing easy, delicious, and healthy meals. So let's see what everybody's talking about. Well, first, Patricia's saying that a healthy meal is balanced without a lot of salt and extra fat. Yes, you are absolutely right. The extra fat, we've got to be somewhat selective about that fat. And if we're going to have something that has, say for instance, when I make biscuits, I typically make it with Crisco. That's the only time I use Crisco. That's it. It's reserved for biscuits. Do I make biscuits every week? No. No. Now, I can remember my aunt who bless her heart, she's gone on, but she lived on a farm. She not only served food for her family, but also for the people who worked the farm. And so when she served breakfast, she used lard because they raised pigs and hogs as a part of the farm. So they rendered their own lard. They made sure all of that was done. It was amazing to go and see the farm in operation. It actually was a tobacco farm. And so that was another experience of something I had never seen as a kid. So when you think about those things and you think about, and she lived to a ripe 80, 88, 89, long time, but she ate in moderation. And when you have 12 to 15 people sitting down to a meal, let's face it, everybody's going to get a little bit of whatever's being served. And then they're going to go out and they're going to spend hours working, hard work, not easy work. We're talking sweat. And that may be the part that we're missing because Are we getting out and getting as much exercise as what farmers would do? Probably not, unless you intentionally go to the gym. And then at that, it's still probably in 45 minutes to an hour, and then you're out and about. Whereas farmers are working for mega hours to make sure that that farm is operating. And back in the day, the technology was not such that they were using huge pieces of equipment that did all of the work. A lot of the work that they were doing by hand. And so it was a tough road and a tough job to have to do. Now, um, I see we've got Denise on, and she's saying that she's agreeing with preparing food in a more healthy manner, that she's on it. All right. we were talking about sugar, and she said that's her stumbling block, but she's trying to work on it. And we are all works in progress. We're trying to get it done. And when I made some house seasoning the other day, and I'll be sharing that with you. This, in fact, tomorrow I think it'll come out. But anyway, I made my basic house seasoning. There is no salt. There is no salt. This way, I can have the flavorings and the spices, and that's what Mayo Clinic said. Kick up your spices, your other spices, so that your mouth will not miss the lack of salt. So salt's just a pinch, and the rest is in your seasonings and spices. So that's something that we're all working on and trying to get to that point. Michelle says that they use Redmond's real salt. So we are at least using a healthier salt. Absolutely. She said her daughter has a condition where she has to eat extra salt. Her cardiologist gave her salt pills. Wow. Wow. Okay. Well, we have to have a certain amount of salt. And you are certainly, I have looked into Redmond's. I heard that Redmond's real salt was really a really good salt to use. And to be honest with you, I just haven't ordered it, but I am certainly considering trying it to see if that's something that might be an option I might want to try. And if I do, I'll let you know. Patricia said that growing up, they had a special treat on Friday nights. She said hers was usually potato chips. Yeah, I like that. And dessert was saved for Sunday dinner unless you had a birthday or a holiday. That sounds like our household. Good morning, Elizabeth. Elizabeth said the sugar is snuck into everything. You're so right. You're so right. There, it is very difficult to pick up anything that is processed that doesn't have salt and sugar. It's almost like the two go together. And, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be the case. Denise said that oh, she wants to see the house seasoning. All right, so we're going to share it. In fact, it's going to be in the form of a short. So be looking for that. It's coming. The house seasoning is coming. And this is the basic seasoning. And I tell you what, it's a seasoning that we took on vacation. And because where we were staying, it had a kitchen. And I had some other people who were there as well. So when I cooked, I used my basic house seasoning, and they're just oohing and eyeing on how good everything was. And they said, well, what did you put on this? And because I think I fixed ribs and chicken and something else. And I said, my house seasoning. And of course, everybody wanted to know what was in it at that point. So that's what I'm going to share is the basic house seasoning. And it's so simple. But you think about it, we're using these particular ingredients that are in the basic house seasoning, and we're always putting it on different things. So now I even keep it in a shaker because if I need extra, I can shake rather than you don't necessarily have to use the teaspoon or the tablespoon, whichever the case may be, and no salt and no sugar. Oh my goodness. And Joan is sharing with us that I'm so glad you're here, Joan. She said she hasn't used salt in almost 50 years. Wow. Wow. Well, I tell you what, you are my inspiration for that because my weakness is Doritos. I love Doritos, and I know it has salt, it has sugar, but if I have Doritos, then I don't have any salt or sugar in anything else. So I try to leave it out. Excuse me. So it's a trade off. And so we're going to work through that. So let me share with you some of the things that I've learned over my research. Sometimes it's the cooking technique that we use. And occasionally I will fry something, occasionally, but it's not something I do weekly. It's not even something necessarily that I do monthly. And so I might pan fry, but not deep fry. So when you're thinking about your cooking method or your technique, you're looking at roasting, you're looking at grilling, we look at slow cooking. Anytime you're using your oven, if you're going to prepare chicken in oven, so much than deep frying. So it's about the technique that you're using that helps you eliminate some of the problems. Oven frying will definitely eliminate all of the fat that you would normally have in deep frying. And you can certainly get pretty close to the same taste, the same texture. The only thing you're missing is the fat. And so certainly we can try that. You know, I think another thing is the types of fats that we're using. We want to be able to use healthy vegetable cooking oils. Um, if possible. So I like my preference is grapeseed oil or olive oil. If I have quite a few bottles of olive oil, then I won't have the grapeseed oil. And excuse me, I don't know why I'm yawning. So sorry, I'm really not tired, but I did have to get up early this morning to get to the doctor. Um, Certainly we want to be able to eliminate the use of a lot of butter, but there are just some things that butter has to be used for. While butter is better than using Crisco, better than lard, better than some tropical oils, certainly better than some of those. So we have to try to find those things that are best for us. And my choice is olive oil or grapeseed oil. Some people like avocado oil, and certainly using avocado in on your plate is delicious. It's a good spread. If you're making sandwiches, you can spread your bread with very ripe avocado in place of your salad dressing or your mayonnaise. That's a good thing. We can use it as a part of just our regular salad dressing, shake it up, blend it, shake it up, and use it over a salad. Now, avocado is not low in calories, but it is healthy. So it's a good fat. And it kind of fits both categories because not only is it good fat, it's plant based. And so those are things that we need. Um, Denise says she loves avocado oil, but it's a bit pricey. Yes, it is. She uses more olive oil. She hasn't tried grapeseed, so she'll look for that on her next grocery order. Now, Kroger has an olive oil. I know Denise shops at Kroger. And for those of you who have Kroger, and I think Myers carries it too, I've seen it there as well. But there's a grapeseed oil that you can get, and it comes in a round tin rather than a bottle. And I like that particular one more so than any of them that are on the shelf as far as grapeseed oil is concerned. I also have ordered it from Napa Valley and order it direct. It's a little bit pricey, a little bit like the avocado oil, finding that, but you're getting fresh grapeseed oil because it's coming from Napa Valley. They're using products, once they kind of diversify in that making wine. You've got the grape seeds, crushing grape seeds, making the grapeseed oil. And so you're able to get all of that. And that gives you a nice option and something that's very fresh. And so, and their bottles are pretty large, so it lasts for several months. So you can go to Napa Valley. Napa Valley. I think I usually go to on Google to Napa Valley grapeseed oil, and that's what I type in, and then it takes me straight to the site. And so, okay. I'm not sure why that froze. All righty. Now, so I hope we're back. We had that issue with freezing before, and hopefully that won't happen today. So let's keep going. Salad, 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 salad is an easy way to be able to get your vegetables in. And I like to combine my salad and a little bit of fruit. And so I'll chop up an apple and throw it on the salad. I'll also slice an orange and put little orange slices on the salad. So that gives you a chance to not only have your green vegetables, have your carrots, your cucumbers, your onions, and whatever else that you want to put on your salad. It gives you a chance to have a beautiful salad, and you certainly want your salad colorful. Lots of peppers of all colors, and we can get them in reds and yellows and green and orange peppers. We have a variety. Certainly put a little bit of those colors on your salad, and then top it with a delicious salad dressing. This was a game changer for me. I want you to think back probably 25 years for those of you who are over 40, and maybe 20 years for some of you. But when Dolly Parton first started, I love Dolly Parton. And when Dolly Parton first started, she was not the slim and trim Dolly Parton that we know. She was a somewhat full figure girl. And she had some health conditions that came about, and she needed to lose some weight. And that would help to control some of the problems that she was having. Well, this is what she did. She went to a smaller plate, and whatever she could get on her small plate, she did not limit. I'll say she ate whatever she wanted, but everything had to fit on the small plate. And if it didn't fit on the small plate, then she didn't have it. And so, for dinner, if she wanted some fried chicken, then she could have a piece of fried chicken. But then everything else had to fit on the plate. It couldn't hang over and you couldn't stack it up. It was one layer on the small plate. So I thought about that small plate. So I took it out, but I put it somewhere. So let me get it. Now, here is our small plate. This plate is about 5 to 6 inches wide. And this is actually, if you look closely, it's the plate that you have for your coffee cup, your little coffee saucer. And it's small, dainty, delicate, but it limits what you can put on your plate and what you will eat. You can either use a small plate, or particularly if you're going to a restaurant, and most of the time when you go to the restaurant, because you're paying premium price, very often they will give you a very nice serving of whatever it is that you are requesting. And it's usually, I know we went to an Italian restaurant the other night. Oh my goodness, the food was delicious. But when they brought it out, I just about fainted because it was enough food to serve, I think, 3 people, just my plate alone, or my dish. And so what I did was I asked for a saucer, and I literally took this plate and divided it into 4. And I took a fourth of it, put it on the saucer, and that was more than enough. And I have 3 more servings that I was able to bring home and to eat. Now, so keep in mind that small is better. And that was the number one tip from the Mayo Clinic diet, was to cut your portion size down. Control your portions, because we've just gotten crazy with our portions. But of course, if you're at home, then certainly you're going to want to use this, because when you're putting things on your plate, you don't want to over stuff yourself. Or do you want to get your children used to eating gobs of food at a time? Because our children are becoming overweight. And so we want to make sure that we are serving healthy food. Now, we also note the second thing that Mayo Clinic said is that at every meal, we should have more low calorie, nutrient rich foods. Those are things such as our fruits and our vegetables. So when you're making your breakfast, and if you're making an omelet, loaded with vegetables, loaded with vegetables. Lots, add carrots. You can add all kinds of things into that, peppers and onions, and well, you might not want to put a lot of potatoes in there, depending upon if you're trying to cut back and trying to reduce your calories, and that might not be what you want to put in there. But certainly you can load it with peppers and onions and carrots, and I have even chopped up little peas and all kinds of things to put into an omelet, or broccoli, all those good things. Squash, whatever you want. The world's your oyster as far as what vegetables you opt to put in there. But then that gives you an option of being able to get in vegetables for breakfast, get in vegetables for lunch, and get in vegetables for dinner. And by the time you come to the end of the day, because we've talked vegetables, not fruits, then you'll have your Big Ten. You want to shoot for the Big Ten. Now, uh, when you think about a heart healthy diet, heart healthy, we used to eat pretty heart healthy, but the American diet, and this is something I'm not knocking it because I got caught up into it too. We all got caught up into it. The American diet, you've seen that they have adjusted the essentials as to what we should eat on the food chart. And that food chart has changed because we found that the way it used to be is not the way, is not the best for the American body and for the American lifestyle. We are not, most of us, out working in the field for 6 to 8 hours a day. So, because of that, our bodies are not burning at that rate. Even our children are not playing as hard as children years ago used to play. And so their bodies are not burning the number of calories that once upon a time people did. Kids were outside from sun up to sundown, and they were ripping and running and jumping and riding bikes and all kinds of things. Well, you know, unless you're making sure your kiddos are out there doing that every day, then more than likely that's not happening, because most of our kids at this in front of a computer. And so, unfortunately, calories aren't being burned. Aren't being burned. Not really. They're not getting in the steps and the moves that they need to make. So, we've got to work on consciously making the effort to make sure that our family is exercising. Do it as a group, do it as a family after dinner. If you've got time, go out and take a walk. If say it can be after breakfast rather than waiting until after dinner. Sometimes we do it after dinner, but it depends on what time your dinner is. If we have an early dinner, like if we make lunch on the weekend, if we make lunch actually dinner, and then just have a bowl of soup or a cup of soup or something in later in the evening. But what we will do is to go out. If it's summer, then we go to the pool and we swim, or we walk to the pool. And so certainly that's something we want to be able to do. Now, let's see. Michelle said, what we consider a serving is so much more than what we need. You are absolutely right. A child's Happy Meal at McDonald's is an adult serving size. You are right. You are absolutely right. And you know what? But they look at you so funny when you go and say, I have 4 adults with me and we ask for 4 Happy Meals. They look at us like we're crazy. And I can remember the time. I remember a lady saying one time, she looked in the car. She only saw 2 children. I ordered 3 Happy Meals. And she said, but you only have 2 children. And she did not give me that 3rd Happy Meal. And I went to the manager and I said, when I request 3 Happy Meals, that's what I want, 3 Happy Meals. And I shouldn't have to order an adult order to have an extra Happy Meal. And so the manager agreed, and I haven't had that problem anymore. Now, pretty much whatever you ask for, you get. But you're absolutely right. And I do like that there are options, even with the Happy Meal, where you can get fruit, You have other things that you can add into that Happy Meal and kind of substitute certain things out, certain drinks, certain items, food items in addition to whatever it is that you're getting. Um, the smaller dinner plate, Denise. I see what you're saying. Start with a smaller dinner plate today because that's an easy fix. And that's what Dolly did. She went small. And there is, or used to be, I think, to be honest with you, I'm not sure that it's still functioning. There was a diet group that they weren't, it wasn't really a diet plan, but it was teaching you food control, and it was called Out of Egypt. Out of Egypt. It was more church based. You found it in more churches. And the cool thing about that program is that it really did teach you portion control. And one of the ideas was to take 3 bites of each item that's on your plate and stop, push the plate away, take it away. If you're at a restaurant, you get your 3 bites and you box up everything else. And that kind of goes back to our saucer of putting whatever it is on the smaller plate and packing up the rest of it. So you're not tempted to go back and get another little sliver of whatever it is to eat. And so that helps you control the portions that you have before you. Um, I see. I'm looking at Joan. Joan says that she always asks right away for a take-home container, and she puts half of it away from the very start, and that is a great idea. Carol said that she needs to work on more vegetables at breakfast. That is the way to go. And the good thing about that, Carol, is that if you're working on trying to increase the vegetables that you have at breakfast, then that means that more than likely you're preparing the breakfast rather than having a ready-made breakfast. Now, if you have a ready-made breakfast, then you might want to keep in your crisper sliced peppers. If you like onions, have sliced onions, broccoli, that you can put, slice the little trees, and that you can add. My husband loves these Jimmy Dean croissant breakfast sandwiches. He likes those because they're quick. He can nuke them and he's good to go. And so, but we've got sliced peppers and onions and those kind of things that he can add to it. And so he gets what he wants, but he also has the additional veggies to be able to put on that sandwich. So that works. That works for him. The Michelle saying a salad plate is a good way to start to reduce your portion sizes if you aren't quite ready for a saucer. And that may be true too. That may work. Charlene, it's good to see you. We're glad you're here today. You're never too late. We're always glad, whatever time you can get in. Kitty, oh, Kitty, like I said, we're glad you're here. Charlene said that some restaurants offer a half portion, but you have to ask. That's true. But even, Charlene, even their half portions are more than what most of us need to eat. So even with the half portions, you may want to cut it in half and only eat half and save the other maybe for another day. And certainly consider asking for that take-home container at the very beginning, because that gives you great options, because it's hard. It's hard when you're spending premium dollars at a restaurant. Then yes, you want a reasonable portion of food. You've got to, you're paying for it, you want it. But the reality of it is that doesn't mean you have to eat it all right then. And I have done the one, the two, and the three bites and push the rest away. I have done that. And I can tell you, yes, it works. You get whatever it is you want. Um, if you've got your little saucer, you're pretty much getting three bites of your protein, your veggies, and depending upon how much you put on here, you could have a slither of apple pie if that's what you wanted. And that was what was being offered. So you could have a little slither of your pie and you can still have your dinner, but nothing should hang off of your saucer, and yet and still you get everything you want right here on this little tiny plate. But once you finish, it's gone, and you just don't come back to that. And it takes a certain amount of discipline. And to be honest with you, I even compared my dessert plate to my salad plate, and the salad plate really is still I put the salad plate on my regular plate, and that portion of the plate that we usually put the food in your main plate, that's your salad plate. So you figure you're not really saving yourself with the salad plate. And so I try to get the smallest that I could get, which was the saucer. And that, like I said, that's what Dolly Parton used, was her saucer. And as you can see, it worked and is still working, because she found that worked for her. She had certain things she liked, and she didn't want to eliminate those things that she liked, because she never wanted to think that she just couldn't have it. It was just that she had to learn that she could only have a teeny tiny bit of it, but she could have it. So it was psychological. Yes, oh, yes, I can have apple pie, even if it is this big, you know, or this big. And so I'm okay with this big, because that will be enough to trick your mouth and your brain into saying, ooh, that was such a good apple pie, even though you only had maybe two really good bites. But they were two bites that were worth taking, and they didn't throw your body into a tizzy. So I like the saucer. So Denise is saying that she's going to go with the salad plate and see what's what. And it'll be a small change, and her hubby may not notice. Well, now that's an idea. That's an idea. But as you're looking at your plates, you're going to want to compare. And, when you look at your regular dinner plate and you look at that portion, not what I call the band of the dinner plate, and you sit your salad plate on it, it is more than likely the same size of that dinner portion of the plate. It wasn't intended for us, I don't think, for us to cover the band of the dinner plate. That was that's why it's so decorative. The dinner was supposed to be on the inner portion, not the outer portion. But we got to the point where it's just all over the place, because we're going to get everything in there as much as we want. Uh, Charlene said that she uh, doesn't eat out as much. She lives in California, and the portions given there are ridiculously large, and she prefers homemade food. Okay, I'm with you. Those home meals are always the best, and it allows us to control what is going in our bodies, and that's always a good thing. So, we're going to be talking about taking care of our heart. Now, in addition to, food is our major item that we're dealing with when we're dealing with heart health. It's what we're eating, how much are we eating, um, but there's one more factor, and I just had not realized how much of a factor it was. And this is what we're going to talk about for the next couple of minutes. How much do you really sleep? How many hours do you sleep? I mean, really sleep a night. Talk about it in the description box. Let's tell each other, how many hours on average do you sleep? Are you getting 7 to 8 hours of sleep or more? If your answer is no, then know that this is an issue. It's not just our issue as women, men are having problems with sleep as well. Sleep is a concern. Sleep, I had no idea of how sleep affects our body rhythms. And I'm lucky, and I went for years on anywhere from 4 to 5 hours of sleep. And when I got 5 hours of sleep, I thought I was good. And only to find that it wasn't so good. It's very stressful on the body. If you're not a sound sleeper and you do more cat napping throughout the night, and that's for those of us who roll over and we wake up and we lay there a few minutes and we're looking around, and then finally we drift back off to sleep. And then before we know it, we're turning over and we're looking around, doing it all over again all throughout the night. We are cat nappers rather than sleepers. And he knows the difference. Your sleep is one of the most important factors that you can have. And we need to sleep. If that means that as we age, our melatonin changes, we have less melatonin in our bodies. You know, as kids, we'd rip and run all day. And when we hit the bed, we were out. And sound until the next morning. And, you know, as teenagers, think about it. As teenagers, you never wanted to get up. You know, you'd go to sleep and you might sleep till 11 o'clock unless your mom woke you up. They can sleep. Their melatonin levels are high. But as we get older, when we start passing 40, our melatonin levels start to decrease. And so, because of that, our sleep may not be as efficient as it should be. We need 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Now, according to the doctor, I thought I was really having a sleep issue. And because of the concerns that was going on, that was one of the first things they started checking was, am I sleeping? And because when I told her, I said, hey, when I was working, my mind was revved. You know, I'd wake up in the middle of the night. I kept a notepad next to the bed and I would sit there and write notes in the dark because once I got it on paper, then I could relax and go back to sleep. But sometimes I thought I could go back to sleep and I might be up another hour or so before I could actually drift off again. I can go to sleep like that. And I'm asleep for quite a few hours, say 4 hours. And then I'm trying to start it again. So I have to, number one, make sure for me that I try not to take a nap. I try not to fall asleep watching television or whatever it is. I try not to do that so that I'm really, really tired when I go to sleep at night and that I can sleep solidly. And when I had a sleep test, they found I really was. I'm looking at Joan, and I'm going to come down here and then I'll come back to the rest of you. She said, well, she found out that she's a cat napper. And I am too, Joan. I'm a cat napper too. And the doctor says that really, there's nothing wrong with cat napping, really, during the day. If you're not able to lay there and sleep a solid 8 hours, then it's okay to have a nap. And if you figured out that even not taking a nap, you're still not getting your 7 to 8 hours, then take the nap because your body needs that time of sleep. Um, Denise said that she gets maybe 6. She says sometimes she has a terrible time sleeping. And yeah, sometimes it's just hard to go, hard to do. And if you find that, I don't know about you, but I do my best thinking in the middle of the night. And so that's when all the ideas and whatever else comes to me when it's quiet in the middle of the night. And so because of that, that's why I kept the notebook when I was working. And so now I try to shut that down. So I'm trying melatonin to see if I can add the melatonin and if that will help to quiet my thoughts during the night. And I'm going to knock on wood, but so far, so good. So far, so good. And I'll keep you posted on how that's going. But in taking the melatonin, it really has quieted my sleep. And so I'll see if I'm getting more sleep. But certainly it has helped tremendously in helping with bringing the blood pressure down to a normal level. Charlene said that she's 54 and going through the big M. Ugh, and she's battling insomnia, but she found that water sounds help her relax and drift off because her issue is staying asleep. Oh, wow. Oh, wow. Staying asleep. So, Charlene, I'm assuming you're somewhat of a light sleeper. And do you tend to hear every bit of noise in the house? My my husband is one. He could hear the cat when the cat was moving. And cats are quiet, but he could hear that cat moving around the house. And so needless to say, what went, and it wasn't was it wasn't the cat had to go because he needed to sleep. Elizabeth said her daughter gave her a Fitbit for Christmas that tracks her sleep. So she averages about 7 hours of sleep. Well, that's great. 7 hours is good. The closer you can get to 8, the better. And the nice thing about the Fitbit, and I've got one too, that's what I've got, I keep with me. The Fitbit tracks my steps, tells me, if I'm getting in what I want for the day as far as exercise is concerned, as well as it tracks the sleep. And I love that. I love that because it really gives me data that I can go back and look at and see how I'm doing for the week. Um, Charlene said, yes, she is a super light sleeper. And so that makes it hard because there are things in your house. This is something to consider. And I do this on vacation. I put the little sleep mask on because I need dark. I need for the room to be pitch black to stay asleep. I also need for the temperature to be cold. So the heat gets cut back to about 66 every night, 66. That's it. If it's any higher than that, I'm not going to be able to sleep. And I'm kind of past the big M. And so that's not really my concern. But cold, keep this in mind, sleep like a bear. Bears want cold, and they will sleep peacefully for a very long time. So, total darkness, cold temperatures, and typically they say to turn off your television and your computers, devices, those kind of things about 20 to 30 minutes before you try to go to sleep. Now, for me, I don't have any problem going to sleep. I see I froze for a second. For me, I don't have a problem going to sleep because I never did. I didn't have a problem with that. I just had a problem staying asleep. And so, because the mind is going. I'm thinking of everybody, everything, every issue, all of that is going through my head during the night. And so I needed the quiet. So the total darkness helps. So, Charlene, and for those of you who are having trouble, try a sleep mask and try cutting your thermostat back and see if that helps just a little bit, because that was what my doctor said try. It works. It worked for me. So I'm thinking if it worked for me, it can certainly help someone else. So, guys, guess what? It is time for us to go back to work. We got to go back to work. I got a couple of floors I need to mop, and then I'm going to work on dinner. But you know what? It's been a pleasure being right here and having you right here at the lunch table. It's always a lot of fun. And we are certainly, if we can get ourselves good and healthy, as we get healthy, our healthiness is going to spread to our family, because when we're eating healthy and we're making healthy changes, they're going to receive the healthy changes as well. So, without further ado, mwah, to all of you, have a wonderful, wonderful week and enjoy every moment. Stay warm, stay safe, and I will see you soon from Ebony Ivy and Thyme. Let's have a good time and have a good week. So, see you later.